Right, so welcome everyone to the long-awaited second episode. So just real quick, so we're joined today by a few Googlers and GDEs. So first off, what are GDEs? It's the local, there are 4 or 5 of us in the chat room right now. So it's local people with local expertise helping on some Google tech. So if you are using it in your startup, we're here to listen and maybe help. So next up, the actual show is we're trying to keep it monthly, and that's the second one. We're trying, and then we're going to see if we can make this downloadable MP3s, so anyone can quickly listen to it if you can't get to the video today. And the live hangout. So if you're interested in joining the hangouts, maybe you have something to share or something to show at the end of the show, we're going to give you a form to sign up, give feedback, and join us. So I'm off to Hiren.
Hi everyone. So to introduce the panel here today for you, we have an invasion of cloud GDEs, Google Developer Experts, and they are JohannduToit, who's sitting next to me, DaleHumby, who's sitting on the Hangout, if you want to just wave hi, KennethKinyanjui, who is sitting in Nairobi joining us, and myself, HirenPatel. We also have Mercy Orangi, who is the Developer Ecosystems Community Manager for Sub-Saharan Africa at Google, if you just want to wave as well. So what are we talking about today? The theme for today is WordPress on App Engine. So WordPress is a really popular web framework, and Google App Engine is a highly scalable platform as a service offered by Google. And we're talking about combining the two and running your WordPress web application on the highly scalable platform. So why is it a good time to do this? Well, one of the reasons is that the PHP runtime for Google App Engine has just become generally available, and this means it's deemed stable, completely supported, backed by a service level agreement, and so on. So it's a good time to use PHP in general on Google App Engine. So our schedule for today looks as follows. We're going to have a small bit of note from our spotlight speaker, who's Mercy. We're then going to have Kenneth introduce the main topic for 10 minutes, talking about building your WordPress project on Google App Engine. We'll then have a Q&A session for 5 minutes. So if you have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A. So we have enabled the Q&A app for the Hangout. If you're on the Hangout on air, you should see the Q&A app. You should be able to ask your questions there. You can also ask your questions on the Google Plus event for this page, as well as the Google Plus Google Developers Africa community. So post your questions to these 3 mediums, and we will field them and answer them at the end of the main session. And then we'll have a closing and a wrap-up for 5 minutes or so. So to kick things off, I'm going to hand over to our spotlight speaker, Mercy.
Okay, so you've got Mercy on the channel, who you might not recognize. I don't know if you've waved yet, Mercy. Can you show you? There we are. So Mercy, so elevator pitch. Who are you? Where are you based? What are you doing?
All right. So first off, thanks very much for having me on your show. It's a great privilege, I must say. So my name is Mercy Orangi. I'm the Developer Ecosystems Community Manager in SSA, Sub-Saharan Africa. In our wider team, we call the Developer Relations at Google. So yeah, so that's me. Previously, I was working at a local insurance asset managers bank, and I got to work on various in-house systems in terms of development and automation. And the greatest project for me when I was there was one that I undertook in integrating the investments platform with the National Integrated Persons Registration System, a database that is owned by the government. So this got to cut the processing overhead by like 80%, which was a really cool thing for the bank. So I also used to manage and organize activities for GDG Nairobi, that's Google Developer Groups Nairobi. So things to do with monthly meetups, hackathons, outreach programs like computer science for high schools, etc. So that's under GDG. So coming into Google, this offered me a platform to engage more with developer communities on activities in a full-time under my role currently. So yeah, that's me. And thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. So at Google, you're currently running the Launchpad program. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's true. My current focus is on the Launchpad program. So this is Google's program that we use to get in touch and try and engage with startups in the region. So, okay, globally, but I handle the region, Sub-Saharan Africa. So startups get to apply, and if accepted onto the program, then they get to leverage a few of the benefits that we give them. A few of them, an example being cloud credit. We have Firebase also currently, one-on-one testing, and time with experts to actually critique the apps. So there's a lot that startups in the region can leverage on once on the Launchpad program. Yeah.
Awesome. So anyone can join from across Africa. You can just go sign up.
Exactly. So that's true. Strictly anyone can apply, provided you got a startup and it's something that you want to start or scale depending on whatever stage you are in your startup. Anyone can apply and get to leverage the benefits if accepted onto the program. So if you want to apply, the application is open online. Just search for developers.google.com/startups. That's the URL, and you're going to see a button where you can apply. Yes.
We'll get Mercy to post a link to anyone that wants to apply. And so, Mercy, just last thing. So, interesting events we should look out for. What's happening?
Sure thing. So there's one that is currently in the pipeline. This is GDS in full. That's Google Developer Summit. So we are doing the first of its kind in the region, and it will be held in 3 cities in the region. That's Lagos, Nairobi, and Cape Town. So being the first in the region, we actually have a lot of expectation from our developers. We'd like you to apply and come. It's a technical event focused on lead developers, lead designers, CTOs, and the likes. So feel free to apply, and shortlisted candidates will be contacted in early August, yes, to give them much more in-depth info about the summit. Yeah. So for you to apply, just go online and search for Google Developer Summit Sub-Saharan Africa. You'll see the website. But better yet, go to Google+, search for Google Africa, the page, and you will see a post that they made. And feel free to apply.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We know you a bit better now.
Sure. Thanks a lot for having me. It's actually a pleasure.
So now off to our main topic. Kenneth, sitting next to her, is going to teach us how to build a scalable blog. I'm interested. It's all yours, Kenneth.
Hey Africa. So today I'm going to show you how to deploy your WordPress website on a Google App Engine instance. So just to tell you about WordPress, it's actually a free and open source CMS based platform that's actually based on PHP and MySQL. The magic lies between in its plugin architecture and template system. So it's very easy for you to spin up your WordPress site in a matter of like hours and deploy it online. So it's actually powering 23% of the top 10 million websites on the web. So today I'm gonna show you why Google App Engine and WordPress should be friends, and how do they meet, and why should you deploy your WordPress on App Engine. So App Engine is actually Google's platform as a service, and it allows you to run your WordPress site or your applications that you build and deploy on App Engine on Google's infrastructure. And one of the magics in it, it actually allows you to have automatic scaling. You don't need to have a server system admin. So Google App Engine handles most of those sysadmin tasks for you. It's actually very easy to integrate with other Google platform services that actually enhance your application. So today, this is what we'll be building. This is a screenshot of a WordPress site that's actually been deployed on Google App Engine. So in the next couple of minutes, I'll be covering the following: what you actually require to do the deployment, how do you actually set up a Google Cloud Platform project, which config files do you need to edit, how do you run it locally, and how do you actually share it to the world by putting it up on App Engine, and a bit of tips and tricks. So let's start. Basically, you'll need the PHP SDK server for Google App Engine. You also need a local MySQL server on either on your local environment and also on your host environment. So in this case, on your host environment, you use Cloud SQL. You also need a Google Cloud Platform account. So yeah, so setting up a project on Google App Engine. So what you'll need to do is just go to cloud.google.com, and you'll actually, and if you're signed in on your Google Plus, you'll actually see a button where I've circled written My Console. So this should be your friend, especially when you're trying to deploy. So when you hit that guy, you'll actually see a pop-up where you can actually, you'll see the existing projects that are there on your Google Cloud Platform account. So you need to start a new project, and when you start a new project, you give it a project name. So in this case, we give ours WordPress -2000. And you also need to define the data center where your app will live. So in this case, since my app is in Kenya or in Africa, most of my users are coming from Kenya and Sub-Saharan Africa. So the nearest data center that will make sense is actually the European data center. So you actually go to advanced options and actually select the European data center. So remember, everything that you create will have to live in this data center. So once you hit that guy, you actually see the process of your instance being created, and that should show that things are going okay. So after this, you'll actually need to remember that was the first thing, creating a cloud platform account. So the next thing will be downloading the Google App Engine PHP SDK from the Google Cloud Platform, and then actually download it, and actually follow the install instruction just directly under that. So there are a couple of tasks that we'll do on the Cloud Platform account. We'll actually create a Google Cloud Storage bucket, which is very important. We'll also create a Cloud SQL instance, and also download the WordPress on Google App Engine Starter Kit. So the first thing is actually hitting the compute option, and you'll actually see App Engine, Compute Engine, and Container Engine. So we are very most interested with App Engine. So after that, so that you're dealing with App Engine, you need to create a Google Cloud Storage bucket. So App Engine has this. App Engine has it's a platform as a service, so it doesn't allow you to actually write on its file system. So you'll actually need to come up with a way to upload your media files. So that's why we need a Google Cloud Storage bucket, and we'll actually create one. So the process of creating one, we'll give it a name. So in this case, we give it WordPress on GAE, and then we'll actually go to advanced options and give it. We'll actually put it in the data center European Union, because remember we put our App Engine app on the European data center. The next thing will be creating a Cloud SQL instance. So remember, one of the requirements was a MySQL server, and when your app is on the cloud, you'll actually need an online instance of MySQL running, supporting your app. So in this case, we'll use Cloud SQL, which is one of the services that's offered on Google Cloud Platform. So creating an instance is very easy, but remember, your database name has to be what has to be called, your database instance has to be called WordPress. So you'll actually give it, create a Cloud SQL instance with your project ID being WordPress and guide_2000 and its instance name as WordPress. And remember, the data center has to be in Europe. So once you've created your Cloud SQL instance, this should show up, showing that you have a successful installation or setting up. Now the next final step will actually be, now the third step, which is the most trivial, is actually downloading the Google App Engine PHP startup project. So a couple of Googlers have been maintaining this project and making it up to date and making it easy for you to deploy WordPress sites on Google App Engine infrastructure. So once you download your App Engine files for your various platforms, be it Mac, be it Linux or Windows, you need to unzip the file. And once you unzip the file, you'll have a couple of interesting, important files that will show up. So one important app in any App Engine application is the app.yaml file, which you use to configure your application. The next most important file is actually the wp-config file, which is very key in configuring your WordPress instance. So in this case, we're configuring two guys, WordPress and Google App Engine. So you need to edit these config files. And the first one, as we mentioned, will be the WordPress config file, wp-config.php. And you'll be interested in two guys. So you'll be interested in the first guy being the local environment and the Google App Engine cloud environment. So there are two arrows. And the first arrow shows Cloud SQL, and you have to replace your project ID there, and you also, the second one, actually you configure your localhost with your root password and the MySQL root password. So if you do it successfully, so you should have Cloud SQL, WordPress, and -2000 and WordPress. So this shows you that you have already configured your wp-config file to notice your App Engine app instance. The next thing will be to configure your app.yaml file, and you need to change your project ID. So the reason for this is when you're deploying your app on the Google App Engine, when you're pushing it from local to the cloud, this is the file that the App Engine will look for and actually configure your project. So you need to replace that with your project ID. And once you do that, you have application and your project ID as now WordPress on Guide 2000. So the most important thing now is running your WordPress locally. You need to know, is it working? And so in the beginning, I told you about creating a WordPress database. So we'll go to MySQL and create a WordPress. We create a database named WordPress_db. So this goes into your local storage and actually matches to your App Engine app. So if you want to run your app on Mac or Windows, you can use the terminal or use the launcher. So another important thing to note is that on Mac and Windows, the SDK comes with its PHP binaries bundled, and just running the app is just a push of a button away. So you just need to run dev-app-server.py and give it your WordPress on Guide 2000 directory. Okay. So, but if it's on Linux, since you have to use your own PHP binaries, I actually prepared a script that's there. So you'll do it as you do it on Mac or Windows, and you'll actually give it the next couple of the location to where your PHP binaries are installed in your system. So once you do that, you should actually run App Engine locally and install the PHP and install sequence will show up, and you'll now be able to install WordPress on your App Engine locally. So the most important thing now is you have App Engine running locally on your developer machine, but it doesn't make sense, your app living on your laptop. So you need to push it online. So you need to deploy it, and deploying is very easy on Google App Engine. It's just a button away. So you'll actually now remember we set up our project. So you'll actually now not use DevOps server.py, but you use app.config.php. And then give a command update and give your WordPress on GAE 2000 update. And once you give that command, it will actually trigger a deployment command and start deploying the app automatically. So just like you did on your local database, you'll need to also set up your WordPress _DB inside your Cloud SQL. So to do that easily, you just run Google _SQL.py and give it your Cloud SQL instance. So in this case, we give it WordPress on GAE -2000, and then the name of the instance name was WordPress. So giving it that actually automatically triggers an authentication for a token. So it'll actually redirect you to your browser, and when you accept, you'll be able to access your Cloud SQL instance. So you'll actually be presented with that, and you'll actually now create a database, WordPress _DB. So that's the most important. That's what App Engine will be looking for, or WordPress will look for that database. So now, as you did it locally, if you go to your projectid.appsco.com, you'd actually be hit by this URL, which will actually trigger you to install WordPress on your instance. So once you install your app, you'll actually create a user, and in this case, you go to your WP admin and do a couple of configurations that are very important. So you need to activate a plugin, you need to configure emails, and also remember, you need to hook up your Google Cloud Storage bucket. So a couple of plugins that are just pre-installed in the starter kit that you'll see is one, the Batch Manager, and the other one, the Google App Engine for WordPress plugin. So you have to activate these two plugins. The second now important thing is configuring your email and also hooking up WordPress to your cloud storage bucket. So you'll actually see these couple of settings. If you go to settings, you'll actually see an App Engine option. And now you put the App Engine email that you want any notification to come to this. So this usually any notification that affects your App Engine app, which email do you want it to go to? This usually the person maintaining this application. And the bucket name. Remember, we created an instance, so we created a bucket name called WordPress on GAE. So remember, this name is very important, and you need to put it there. Yeah. So actually, that's it. If you do that, oh my God, you'll have a hello world hitting you on your screen, and you'll have successfully deployed your WordPress on Google App Engine. There are a couple of tricks and tips that you actually need to know if you're doing this on a very big, robust WordPress site. Remember, you need to update themes and plugins, because that's the magic of WordPress. And the beauty about this is you have to maintain a local version of the app so that you can be able to maintain themes and plugins. The reason because of this is because, remember, you cannot upload on Google App Engine's file system. So you can upload to your file system and then do a redeployment. So each time you do a version, you want to install a new theme, you just install it locally and then do a redeployment. And also to update a theme, you install the theme or the plugin locally and then do a redeployment. So in that case, you won't have to, you'll actually be able to have these plugins and themes on your WordPress instance online. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Back to you, Johan.
Cool. Thanks, Kenneth, for that walkthrough. It was quite interesting.
Thank you.
So we're looking at a couple of questions in the Q&A session. again, if you have questions and you're watching this online, just pop them in for us. I'll start it out with one question. So a lot of developers that deploy their stacks on PHP frameworks like the freedom to edit their php.ini config so that they can control their runtime better. App Engine is a platform as a service, but does it offer the ability to change the runtime using php.ini as well?
So it actually works in the same concept. Remember where I mentioned that to update a theme or a plugin, you need to not do it online, but actually do it locally. So you actually have the php.ini file that's actually stored locally within your in the starter kit. So let's say you want to control the limit of applications that the size of files that you want to upload. You go to your php.ini file, edit it, and actually upload it. But if you want to configure more intricacies of the runtime, you'll not focus on the php.ini file. What you'll actually be dealing with mostly is the app.yaml file, which actually configures your runtime for App Engine.
Cool, thanks, that makes sense. The next question is, so within the developers console on the Google Cloud platform, I've seen the Google Cloud launcher for WordPress. What is the difference between that and this?
So remember how I told you that sometimes some developers want to control how their architecture is running, and it's just sometimes easier to, some people choose the option of either launching with the launcher, but you don't actually have control and don't know what's happening in the background. So some people like to get their hands dirty sometimes and get to know the whole process, so that if anything comes about, they're able to fix it because they're the ones who did the deployment. But once you have that, like launcher, for example, let's say an instance came and you didn't know where to start, so you'll have to, find maybe someone who's an expert and actually come and debug it for you. But if you actually did it on your own, you actually know how to manage it. So it's either, you can use either of the two. Depends on the use case.
Cool, thanks a lot. So we have a question from someone on the Hangout on Air. Being a developer, I am fond of JEKYLL. I'm not too sure
Jekyll.
what Jekyll. Some framework. Can you deploy Jekyll to Google App Engine?
Oh, Gento. Does it mean Gento? G-E-N-T-T-O.
Just if I can pop something in here, Jekyll, if I remember correctly, it's a static site generator.
Oh, Jekyll.
Probably be better to pop that on cloud storage instead of App Engine. But please find us and discuss and send it out to the community and let them know how to do it.
Yeah. I think it's actually possible to deploy Jekyll on Google App Engine, but it will be better to use since it's depending on, okay, that's a bit tricky. Maybe we can actually debate on that. But I do know that you can deploy a static site on Google App Engine just using Python and just configuring the static site and having the Python runtime. But I think Jekyll runs on Ruby, so I'm not very sure on that. But it's something that you can debate on the community. Yeah.
Cool. Right. We've got a few more questions, but we're running out of time a bit, so we're going to have to cut it a little bit short there. But Kenneth is in the G+ community, so ping him, tell him what does work and what doesn't work, and please post what you find. So just thank you for tuning in. You might know or not know there's a Google Developers Africa group that you can go join, and we post all of these updates, all of the status updates, all of that through there. And then we'll be posting feedback links, so you can give us some feedback, either from poor to awesome, because that's the only skill that matters. And you can actually apply to be on the show if you want. So, like we spotlighted Mercy, if you've got something cool or you're doing something awesome, please ping us and we'll get you on the show and you can tell everyone what you're doing. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.